telephone off because it's going to pick up on the camera. Okay?
Good afternoon, young people. How's everybody doing today? Good. You look good. You look good.
You too. You too.
Thank you very much. I'm trying to hang in there for a whole time. Listen, I'm going to jump into this thing right away because what I have to share with you today is just a small portion of an overall presentation that I've been working on the last 2 years or so. I've had the fortune, however, to work with young people like yourselves over an extended period of time, almost my whole life. But specifically, what leads me to this topic, which is in your programs, the title of the presentation is called the rap. I think it's titled "The Rap Music Industry and the Mass Media," or "The Mass Media and the Rap Music Industry." Yeah. Right. Keeping it unreal. Keeping it unreal. I get to this topic in this work because over the last 15 years or so, I've been working with young people here in Chicago, in the Chicago public schools, primarily young people who we would consider at extreme risk. Young people who are involved in street organizations, young people who are involved in other antisocial behaviors, drug selling, drug using, and all of the negative things that we talk about in urban areas and throughout the United States of America in some areas. And so as I work with these young people, I've always been the kind of teacher or mentor or whatever my capacity is with young people, is to try to speak to them in a language that they feel comfortable speaking in. You know, I do a lot of work with young people that are gangbanging, and I think one of my strengths is the capacity to talk to kids who are in that element. Because I grew up not necessarily involved in that kind of activity, but my father was an individual, he was a detached worker, and he worked with gangbangers. And so I was, growing up, I hung out with him, and I saw how he was able to communicate with them, and I kind of took some of those methods into my professional work with young people in schools throughout the city of Chicago. And about, I don't know, maybe about, I would say probably the late 80s, I was working with a group of young people, and they brought me some music, which we call rap music. Now, I had been introduced to rap music when I was a young person in high school. I graduated from high school way back in 1980, right? And that's when rap music is first being commercialized, right? That's when you had Sugar Hill Gang, the hip, the hop, the hip, the two, the hip, the hip, the hop, you don't stop, the rap, to the bang, bang, book. See, y'all shouldn't know nothing about that. Y'all too young for that. Right. Oh, yeah, right. So listen, that is the first commercial rap music that you're going to get, right? Sugar Hill Gang. And when I listened to it, I said, you know, I wasn't really like a party kind of person. When I was growing up in the 70s, in the early 80s, you know, we listened to groups like Earth, Wind, and Fire. We listened to Parliament Funk. Y'all remember them, right? You know, so we were P-Funk All-Stars, right? So we were in the funk. But a lot of what we listened to, especially if you were a child of the 60s, like I am, that the whole Black Power movement was influential in our lives. So as Dr. World mentioned earlier, he talked about say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. You know, that's kind of thing we were on growing up, and that influenced us. And so when I listened to music, it had to do something for me. It had to make a political statement or a social statement that I felt like was going to raise my consciousness. So when I first listened to rap music, I couldn't get with it because it didn't do that. So when I went to college, I had some friends who were from New York. I was going to school in Texas, and they were listening to another kind of rap music that you didn't hear on the radio. It wasn't commercial. And so I was like, man, what's that? You know, people like Super Rhymes. And they said, well, this is underground rap music. And it was cool, you know, it was about rhyming fast, but it still didn't have a social political message. So when I graduated from undergraduate, I come back here to Chicago, and I'm using cultural models to work with young people, using a lot of the stuff that we were exposed to in the 60s and talk to young people about their consciousness, about their identity and so on and so forth. And a group of students brought some KRS-One to me. And like, man, Brother Lance, you need to listen to this. This dude, he be on that same kind of stuff you be talking about. So I'm like, well, let me check it out. So I started listening to it for the second time. And it had another kind of message. It had a social, political message, right? When you listening to people like Grandmaster Flash, don't push me, cause I'm
close to the edge.
Come on.
I'm trying
not to lose my head. So it's like a jungle sometimes. I'm trying to keep from going under. Now see, I could identify with that. Because I felt like, it was hectic. We out here struggling every day. So I started listening to it for the second time. And then, now this whole thing in Chicago now. When I'm growing up, the whole gangbanging thing had kind of phased out. So when I'm in high school, you still had Gangster Disciples. You had the El Rugans at the time, which are now the Blackstones and so on and so forth. We had all of that. But it wasn't cool to gangbang when I was in high school. Man, that was lame. If you was a gangbanger, well, I'm saying, it's not now, you're right. But it's in, thugging is in, no doubt, right? It's in and among young people. But when I was growing up, you couldn't be no thug. You had to, you couldn't dress like I'm dressing today. When you came to school, you wore, we was in the GQ, right? You had to be clean, suit and tie and all that kind of stuff. If you was going to get some play from the honeys, right? You had to be G'd up and not G'd up with no gym shoes. You could not wear no gym shoes to high school when I was coming up. You'd be like, dude, gym shoes? You was like, you come with some straight 40s on, some Stacey Adams. That's how it was, right? And we dressed up when we went to school. So then I began to see something different in the music, right? So it's no longer don't push me because I'm close to the edge. And so what we're going to talk about today is how did that change occur and why did that change occur? Now there's a lot of conversation, and I don't disagree with this, that rap music and the rap industry today and youth culture, particularly in urban areas, has allowed some of us in our communities to make money. Ain't no doubt about that. But when you look at the overall scheme of things, of who is making the money and what percentage of us is actually making some money, it's like a speck of sand on the beach. And in actuality, the people that are making the money in the industry are not people who have had the true urban experience that you all have had. It's not people from the hood. It's people from outside of the hood that's making the money and capitalizing, right? But remember, this music, when it starts off in the mid-'70s in Boogie Down Bronx, this was a cultural and it was a social, it was an artistic expression that was created and controlled by urban youth of all colors, right, were making contributions to this music. And so what changed the elements of hip-hop, as we go to the next slide, is I'm proposing, this is just Brother Lance saying, that we have to look at how the corporate American structure focuses and has influenced this industry. Now, I'm going to be talking about the mass media. Let me just say this real quick. When I'm talking about the mass media, I'm really talking about messages that are sent by industries or companies to a large number of people. That's simply what the mass media is. When you break it down in its components, the mass media consists of the television industry, the internet industry, the music industry, magazines, radio, newspapers, film, video games, books, so on and so forth. All of those together make what we call the mass media. And I'm saying the mass media keeping it unreal as it relates to rap music and what urban youth culture is. Okay, so keep these things in mind. Now we can look at all of these industries, but what we're going to do today is we're going to focus on the music industry. And particularly in the music industry, we're going to be looking at the rap music industry within the music industry. Okay, let's go to the next slide. All right, so when rap music comes into existence, y'all, in the 70s, right, it comes out of the dance and the party music of the 70s, not necessarily disco, but it had four elements. It had elements of the art of MCing, the art of breakdance, and the art of DJing, and the art of graffiti art, okay, or what we might call tagging. And what I'm saying is that something happened along the way, that now the elements have been distorted, okay? And the identity and the attitudes and the beliefs of urban youth, and this is important, y'all got to recognize this about yourselves, that as urban youth, all eyes are on you. All over the world, all young people throughout the world are watching urban youth, American urban youth. And they're taking their call to action from you. You know, we go to Africa. You go to Africa, and you see dudes, man, I'm talking about straight in Accra, Ghana, walking around with, you know, they got elites, you know, they got the latest gear, right? They got pants sagging, right? In Ghana. You go to South Africa, same situation. South Africa, in certain parts of South Africa, they got a real serious problem with street organizations, gangs. The largest gang in South Africa is called the Americans. The second largest gang in South Africa that's coming up and kicking up all of the dust. Guess what the name of that organization is? No, Murder Inc. Murder Inc. Now, listen, the old people are like, what? Who? Murder Inc. Tell them who Murder Inc. is.
That's Ja Rule.
That's Ja Rule. That's one of the top rappers now. And his, well, okay. Okay, he did fall off. But he's one of the most recent popular rappers to fall off. Okay? But his label that he's affiliated with, Murder Inc., is one of the top companies. We'll talk about this in a few minutes, as a matter of fact, Murder Inc. So you can see the influence of the music all over the world. In Brazil, you get this large population of hip-hop and rap music in Brazil, outnumbering the record sales here in the United States of America. So it's large internationally. And everybody is watching urban youth who produce this music, but the problem is that the music has been gangstered from urban youth and taken over by people who are diametrically opposite of urban youth. Okay? And what happens is it looks confusing because when you study rap music, there, in addition to these four elements people talk about, there's 5 other pillars that I say that go along with these 4 elements. Again, MCing, breaking, DJing, and graffiti art. But there are some pillars that go with it that hold it up. And one of the pillars is called keeping it real. Right? Rap music was about representing what comes from the street because you have to, the key thing in rap music when it first comes into existence is that you got to keep it real. So you don't rap about nothing that what? That you didn't actually experience yourself. If you didn't go through this yourself, you cannot, in the rap music industry, if you are honoring the principles or the pillar of rap music, you are not supposed to rap about nothing that you have not experienced yourself. And that's how come when you listen to rap music in the beginning, when Boogie Down Productions and them were doing their thing, Criminal Minded, yeah, they could rap about that. Chris KRS-One could talk about Ghetto Minded because he was from the street, right? His DJ, Skylar Rock, who made all this music, was from the street. So they rapped about these things. They weren't glorifying what was thugism. They were just saying, this is how we come up. But that wasn't all they were rapping about. You know, he said, you know, he talked about how not to get done by the industry, how not to be an industry hoe. We're going to have to talk about some of that. Go to the next slide and let's look at what's happening. Because, see, now these are the new elements and the new pillars. So no longer do we have the art of MCing, DJing, graffiti art, and breakdancing. We got thugism, hoism, pimpism, drugism, right? Little Kim right here, and Little Kim, right? See, in the art of keeping it real, Little Kim ain't from the street, y'all. Little Kim is, and I'm not saying you can't end up being like Little Kim, but Little Kim is a Catholic school, private school going little girl whose parents provided her with the best education. She ain't from no hood.
She so what?
You know, when they talk about Biggie, when Biggie talked about this song, I'm going to send all this song out to all of them people who called the police on me when I was downstairs selling drugs just to make some money so I could feed my kids. Anybody see that video, Biggie and Tupac?
Yeah.
What they tell you about Biggie? Catholic school boy, grow up, and he ain't from no street. They went to the little store that he worked in bagging groceries. They asked the guy, Yeah. Now, they didn't go here trying to expose the kind of stuff that we're talking about today. They just wanted to know a little bit about him. And they just assumed, the people who were doing a documentary, assumed that he was what he said he was, because one of the pillars, the main pillar of rap music is to do what? Keep it real. So people assume that if that's what you're rapping about, you actually were involved in this.
It's all poetry.
Yeah. But we got to understand what's really going on, because I'm going to show you something about the people who control the music. Now check this out. Biggie, they asked the guy, you know, well, yeah, he was out there. So he said, no, Biggie ain't sold no drugs. Biggie don't know drugs. He bagged groceries. That's what he did. Talking about he lived in a one-bedroom shack. Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
Say I lived in a one-bedroom shack when Christmas missed us. Right? They went to his house. He got a 5-bedroom house he grew up in. Beautiful layout. Ain't no Christmas ever missed no Biggie. Now, I'm not saying everybody in the industry is like that, because you got people like 50. Right? We don't have to deal with 50. But 50 ain't necessarily who he says he is either.
Yeah. No.
Right? And we're going to talk about that a little bit, hopefully, if we have time. So, now these are the new voices and images, but Trina talking about she the baddest bitch. Right? That's what she said. The Brat. Remember when the Brat first came out? She's from Chicago, the West Side. What was her image? She was like a little thug girl, right? A little braids, you know, baggy pants. Now look at her, all sexed out. Now, why is that? Because the industry dictates that in order for you to have success in the industry, you got to fit one of these images. Generally, go to the next slide. So, here we go. These are the first female rappers. Y'all remember MC Light? Queen Latifah, U-N-I-T-Y. You got to let them know you're not a what? A bitch or a hoe. That's what she said. Now that's what happens when the music first comes out. Salt and Pepper, the real Roxanne Shante, Moni Love, MC Light. Look at their images. What's the difference between these sisters and the next one? Go to the next slide. Keep going. Keep going. So, you see what I'm saying? It's a difference. And the question is, what happened? Well, this is what happened right here, y'all. The corporate gangster of rap music, as rap music becomes popular. Like most things in America, we live in a capitalist society. I think Kanar was talking about it earlier when he talked about money. But see, it ain't just about money, y'all. Don't get confused that this is about money. Because the people who control the industry are not just selling you so that they can exploit you economically. Because, see, here's the other thing. Okay, let's say it is about money. Let's say it is about money. Who making the money? See, don't nobody say that. The only people that say that it's really about money are people who making money. But not many people from our community are making money. The artists ain't making no money. Do you know how many successful albums you have to make in the industry unless you just blow up like 50 did on that first Get Rich or Die Trying? But generally, it takes artists 3 or 4 albums before they see any profit. And most of them don't make it. Even 50, when he comes into the industry, gets signed by, and I'm going to talk about that a little later, when he gets signed by Columbia, right? Remember, Jam Master Jay was the first person to sign 50. Y'all remember that, don't y'all?
Yeah.
Jam Master Jay signed him, got him a deal with Columbia. It was a $250,000 deal. Now that seems like a lot of money, but guess how much money 50 got? This is before Get Rich or Die Trying. This was on Columbia. He got $5,000 out of that, out of a $250,000 deal that he signed. And then got the nerve to make a song, I don't know what you heard about me, right? Talking about because I'm a P-I-M-P. You ain't no pimp. He should have made the song should have been, I don't know what you heard about me, but I'm a H-O-E. Because you can't be getting no $5,000 out of no $250,000 deal talking about you a That's what you are. That's what you are. That's what you are. And so, talking about how to rob an industry. Remember that song he made, How to Rob Industry Niggas? That's how, y'all know that's how 50 came up. Talking about Ja Rule.
Right, he went
How to rob an industry. He said how to rob an industry nigga. Well then, how come he didn't make no song how the industry rob a dumb nigga? Like me, him, I'm talking about. I'm just keeping it real, right? But when you look at it now, y'all, these are the companies, these are the media conglomerates that control everything that we see on television cable TV, film, internet, radio, publishing, the whole 9. It's only 7 of them in the whole world. Everybody falls in one of these camps. Now you talking about some gangbanging. This the mob right here, y'all. These the folks, these the Stones, these the BDs, these the Vice Lords, these the 4CHs. This how they get down. And they get down just like we think gangbangers supposed to get down. They get down like that for real. Right? So when you see something happen to Pac, you know who really dealt with him for real. I don't have time to get into all of that today because it's a real long discussion. But when you talk about stuff like that, I tell brothers on the street all the time, y'all ain't no gangbangers, man. You ain't no gangbanger because when 5-0 come on the spot, y'all in the wind. Y'all getting little. Right? But real gangsters ain't running when you come on the set. When's the last time you seen a gangster, a real gangster, when the opposition run up on the set, they get to run? Losing their shoes, running all out their shoes, dance all around the no gangster. What up, G? What up, Bo? Right? Ain't none of that. I don't know what parts of the city y'all from. I don't want to leave nobody out, but West Side. Okay, what up? What up, Lord? All right. VL, but look, these the real Vice Lords over here. Look, in rap music, it's 2 companies that control everything in rap music that you listen to. Either Bertelsmann and Vivendi. We're going to focus on them a little bit because it's not time to go through everybody. But interestingly enough, just notice, of all of these companies, News Corp is an Australian-owned company. Viacom is American-owned. Walt Disney, of course, American-owned. AOL, Time Warner. Only 3 American-owned companies of multimedia conglomerates. The rest of them are what we consider foreign companies, since we're here in the United States of America. Sony is Japanese. Vivendi, French, until recently. Bertelsmann is a German-owned company, private German-owned company, and then we talked about News Corp already. Go to the next slide. This is what y'all got to understand, see? This is deep. Ain't nobody saying this to y'all. And they get mad when I say it. They say, don't say nothing bad about Russell. Right? But look, you got to get to deal with this for real, how this thing go down, so y'all ain't confused. See, these multimedia conglomerates, and this ain't Lance talking, this is what Robert McChesney says about the media. Okay, he says this. He says that the entertainment companies, which are a handful, a small group of massive conglomerates that own 4 of the 5 music companies that sell 90% of the music in the United States. So when you talk about it's an opportunity for black people or people to make money in the clothes industry, that's some bullshit. Because we ain't controlling none of that. Urban youth ain't controlling, getting none of that. That's these people right here. Those same companies they also own all the film, the studios, all the major TV networks, all the TV stations pretty much in the 10 largest markets. They own all and part of every single commercial cable channel, these handful of huge companies, and they look at the teen market. Now, when they say teen market, I didn't write this. If I would have wrote this, I would have said American urban youth of color, because that's really who drives the market. Little sisters, y'all decide to wear some, y'all create the style. Guys, y'all create the style. Y'all know how y'all flip y'all pants up. Y'all create the style, and then they come in and they corporatize it and sell it back to you for $300 when you buy it. When you created the style.
We've been putting rubber bands on our pants. Now they gonna put it on
See that?
y'all back.
You see that?
No.
Here you go right here. I ain't gonna bust you out like that.
I was saying that.
You say y'all gonna sell. But see, that's true. That's right. So now the kids, they started a little style where they put little bands on it. Now here they come in and they do it and sell it back to us. But the crazy part about it is what?
We create it.
We do it. We create it, and then we go back and buy it at an exorbitant rate. But look what they say. He says they look at the teen market, this is really talking about urban youth of color, as this massive empire that they are colonizing. Now, look, colonizing is deep. Colonizing is enslavement, exploitation. So what's going on, it ain't just about making money, y'all. This is about exploitation. This is big pimping. So if you big pimping, somebody is big what? Big hoeing. But you got to ask yourself, what side you on? Am I the big pimp? Don't nobody want to be no pimp. Nobody should want to aspire to be a pimp, but you definitely don't want to aspire to be no hoe. Go to the next slide. Look what he says. This is deep. He says you should look at, he's talking about the media and what they do and exploitation. He said you should look at it, talking about them, like the British Empire or the French Empire in the 19th century. Teens are like Africa. What was Africa? Africa was the place that you went to get what?
Slaves.
Yes. And exploit. And riches and their resources. So that's how they see y'all. That's how they come. And the whole thing, you saw what he said on the stage? He said that he just talked to Damon Dash, and Damon Dash said, I ain't making no money off the music. You know why? Because y'all don't buy the music.
We burn it.
Y'all bootleg. Y'all ain't buying no music. Y'all bootleg. But guess who buys the music? 60 to 80% of all rap music is purchased by one specific group of people. White, suburban, young males. That's who's buying the music. So you gotta ask yourself this question. Damn. If they buying the music, but we the front people, then what's being said in the music? And why is it being said like this? Check out what he says here. This is even heavier. He says it is this range that they are going to take over with their weaponry. Now you're talking about weaponry, you're talking about a war. He says their weaponry are films, music, books, CDs, internet access, clothing. Now, somebody gonna sit up here in your face and tell you it's making money. The clothes, we create the clothes industry. They telling you that's a damn weapon. They're using that to colonize your mind. Colonize your economic situation. And we supposed to celebrate that? I'm supposed to go ahead when he delivering us up. You know, it was a whole bunch of us in slavery that, you know, we didn't get on the boat for enslavement without the help of some of our own people.
That's right.
It was some of our own people who came and got us and convinced us to get on that damn boat. So here we are. And just because somebody is out front and they look good and they talking good and they smiling good and they telling you, yeah, but this the reality right here. He's saying that it is a weapon. I didn't say that, McChesney said it. Amusement parks, sports teams, that's how come that team that they put out there for the Olympics, that was a setup. Anybody know anything about basketball? I was a basketball coach and player. When I saw that team, I was like, oh, this is a setup.
Oh, that's horrible.
You playing the internet, I'm talking about the Olympics basketball team. Y'all know they lost, they didn't win it.
They put every star.
They put the people who represent this right here to sell it. But they did not want their team to have success because now this game is becoming internationalized. That it's no longer do we just want the little brothers from the hood playing ball. We want the people from Eastern Europe. So the thing is, if you really put the team out there, if you want to put a team together that crushed in the Olympics, how you gonna go to an international game and don't have no perimeter shooters? If y'all not into basketball, y'all might not know what that means, but they didn't have nobody to shoot from the perimeter. Nobody. That was on purpose, right? Because sports teams are a part of it too. They said, that's all this weaponry they have to make money off of this market, to colonize this market, and that's exactly how they approach it. So they look at the music as just one small part of it. They aren't music companies, they're money-making companies, and music is their weapon that generates the money for them. And it ain't just music. All right, go to the next slide. Okay, what urban youth? Urban youth have become big business because they have the buying power. Go to the next slide. $300 billion y'all got. I can't even go through all of this. Go to the next one, because I want to get through something that's, I think, really important. Basically, all of this stuff is saying is that if y'all don't buy it first, ain't nobody else going to buy it. Once y'all say it's okay, it's cool, everybody else is going to say it's cool. So they got to get y'all to endorse it. They get y'all to endorse it, everybody else is going to follow. That's power. That's straight up raw power. But you got to use it for yourself, to empower yourself, and not use